few more minutes. Good Yontif, everybody. I'm just popping in for a brief announcement. My name is Rabbi Rachel Kaplan. I will be part of the leading team this evening. And although I am usually very machmir, very into starting on time, we are waiting for our other Balat Tefillah, who is very uncharacteristically stuck in traffic. So we're going to give her another few minutes and see what happens. We will pivot if need be, if she's still not here, but I just really wanted to honor everybody's time and give you a heads up so you know what's happening. So feel free to continue schmoozing, and very happy to have you all here, and I will be back very, very soon. Shanah Tovah, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to Worship and Study Minyan. On behalf of myself, my name is Rabbi Rachel Kaplan and Rabbi Jim Morgan, the congregation, all of the congregants. We're just so happy to have you all here this evening. It's wonderful to get to be together in person and to see faces that are so close. And yeah, it just feels really good to see everybody together. We are going to just begin, and our other leader tonight is going to be walking in, and we'll be able to give her a moment to kind of ease in before jumping into Kol Nidre. And so I just am going to share a few housekeeping things, and we will go from there. Please take a moment, if you haven't already, to turn off your cell phone. For those who have the custom of wearing a talit, Yom Kippur is one of the only time actually, where we wear a talit in the evening. So if that's something that you would like to do, there are more talitot out in the front where the sidurim, where the prayer books are. Feel free to avail yourself of one. If you are thinking ahead about when Yizkor might be, when the memorial service might be that happens on Yom Kippur, that's happening tomorrow morning after the Torah service. I know some people it's really on their mind, so I just want to put it out there. So if it's going, you can kind of put it at rest. We also invite you to, there's Lois. Hi, Lois. We're so glad you're here. This isn't an invitation, actually. This is a request or a big ask to keep your masks on, covering your nose and your mouth so that folks feel as safe as possible being here and being together. Lois and I, when we're leading, we will be taking our masks off, but we ask that other folks keep them on, please. And lastly, getting to the meat of what we will be doing tonight, my invitation around prayer, many of you have heard me say before, but I'll say it again. Prayer means lots of different things to different people. There's also a spectrum of where people are coming from. As a friend and teacher, Rabbi Lev Friedman says, some people are Jewish, some people are Jewish, some people are seeking, some people are allies. We come from so many different backgrounds and comfort levels, and I'm so happy that you're all here, and I want it to be meaningful for you. And so if that means using the Siddur and the prayer book and the literal words, amazing. If that means getting to stray from that and just using this time more contemplatively, I'm all for that as well. You know what's best for you, what you need, what you want, and you can do a little bit of both. So really just want the invitation to feel spacious and open so that this gets to be something that really can speak to you in some way. And with that, I would love to invite up Sue Glassman to light the Yontif, the Yom Kippur candles for us. And I invite you, as Sue does the blessing, to think about what you might be wanting to kindle this evening as the holiday begins. What spark are you craving? What gate might you want to be open for you as we enter into this time of prayer? And if you would like to join along with Sue, the prayer for candle lighting for Yom Kippur can be found on page 199. We're going to do the Shechianu later. For those of you who are thinking, wait, why aren't we doing the Shechianu? It's going to come up in a little bit. Yeah. Also, I know maybe like myself, some of you have been running around all day. So I'm going to invite us, as we welcome Lois, to just take a couple deep breaths. It's a big day, and just to really ground ourselves in being here. So just take a moment. Maybe you can want to shift around in your seat a little bit to get more comfortable. But yeah, feel free to take a couple deep breaths with me. And when you feel comfortable, I would love for you to join me on page 203 for a meditation before Yom Kippur. I want to note that not everybody is able to fast for Yom Kippur. I know there's a lot of talk about, fasting, but it's not available and possible for everyone. So if that is the case for you, there's a piece on page 200 called A Meditation for Those Who Cannot Fast, if that would speak to you. And I would love for you to join me on page 203 on the far left-hand side where it says A Meditation Before Yom Kippur. I hereby forgive all who have hurt me, all who have done me wrong, whether deliberately or by accident, whether by word or by deed. May no one be punished on my account. As I forgive and pardon fully those who have done me wrong, may those whom I have harmed by word or by deed forgive and pardon me, whether I acted deliberately or by accident. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. So in a moment, Cantor Lois is going to recite Kol Nidre, and she's going to be joined by two members of our community, Maury Fox-Warren and Lori Feldman, each of whom are going to hold a Torah scroll. This is probably something that folks have seen before, and I just wanted to take a moment to just explain it a little bit. So together, these three individuals serve as this visual reminder of the three people that are needed to form a Jewish court of law, a Beit Din. So why on Kol Nidre do we have this practice of having this visual reminder of the Beit Din? My thought and my hope really is that this reminder, these folks who are here holding the space, so to speak, that they remind us of our deep need for community, that we're not in this alone, even though tonight we might be here by ourselves, that it really takes a village in all the different ways to be in this world. And so I hope that this reminder and seeing these community members up here will help you remember that we're not here in a vacuum. We don't do tshuva, the process of returning and repairing, just internally on our own. It's something we have to do with others. So I hope that we can see this visual reminder and be reminded that the project of repair is enormous and that we need each other for it. So with that, I would love to invite up Maury and Lori. And if it's available to you to rise in body or spirit as we open the ark, and we're going to turn to page 204.
My sincerest apologies for being late. I left about 2 hours ago from my apartment. Zarua la tzadik ulish velev simecha. Zarua la tzadik ulish velev simecha. Bishiva shel mala, uvishiva shel mata, al dar hamakom v'al dar hakal, anu matirin leitpalel im ha'avaryanim. Kol nidre ve'yasarei v'charmei ve'konamei ve'chinuyei ve'kihinusei u'shavuot Darna Udaish Tabana Uriacharimna Vedasarna Nafeshatana Miyom Kippurim Zeh Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu Litovah Kulehon Icharadna vehon Kulehon Yon Sharon Shevitin Vetelin umavutalin la sharirin vela kayamin nidarana la nidre Vesarana la esarei Shavuatana la Shavuot. Kol nidrei v'yasarei v'charmei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei u'shavuot din darna udaish tabana uriacharimna vidasarna al nafeshatana miyom kippurim zeh עלינו לטובה, כל ההון, איחרדנה והון, כל ההון, יהון שרן, שוויקין, שוויתין, ותלין ומבוטלין, לא שרירין ולא קיימין, נדרנה לא נדרה, וסרנה לא אסרה, ושבועתנה לא שבועות. כל נדרה ויסרה וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות דין דרנה ודאיש טבענה ודיחרימנה ודסרנה על נפשתנה מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה, כל ההון איחרדנה והון, כל ההון יהון שרן, שוויקין, שוויתין, ותלין ומבוטלין, לא שרירין ולא קיימין, נדרנה לא נדרה, ויסרנה לא יסרה, ושבועתנה לא שבועות.
The entire congregation of the people Israel shall be forgiven, as well as the stranger who dwells among them, for all have erred. Moshe prayed, "As befits your abundant love, please forgive this people's sin, just as you have always forgiven this people from the time of the exodus of Egypt until now." And there it further says,
Adonai replied, I have forgiven as you have asked. Adonai replied, I have forgiven as you have asked. Adonai replied, I have forgiven as you have asked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lahazman hazeh.
You may be seated for a moment. Dave is going to lead us in Ma'ariv, so we will just take a moment for Dave to gather himself, and we'll start on page 207 when he's ready, and then I'll ask folks to rise again if that's available to you. And actually, just a quick note about that, similar to what I said earlier about the prayer book, whenever it's really important that everybody does what's best for their body. If that's rising or sitting, please don't feel, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like forced that you have to do, that there is a right thing. I really believe that whatever is right for your body is what's right. So please keep that in mind, as everybody's health is so important. If you're able to rise, we'll begin with Baruch Hu on page 207.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMivorach. Baruch Adonai HaMivorach Leolam Vaed.
Please join me in English on the bottom of page 207. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, ruler of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their place in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzevaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk.
U'ma'avir yom, u'mevi laila, u'mavdil ben yom u'ven laila. Adonai Tzvaot Shemo El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Vaed Baruch Atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim.
Amen. Please join me in reading in English the top paragraph on page 208. You have loved your people, the house of Israel, with infinite love. You taught us Torah and mitzvot, statutes and laws. Therefore, Adonai our God, as we lie down or rise up, we shall think of your laws and speak of them, rejoicing in your words of Torah and your mitzvot forever and ever. For they are our life and the fullness of our days, and on them we will meditate day and night. May you never withdraw your love from us. Baruch Ata Adonai, who loves the people Israel.
Ki hem chayenu ve'orek yameinu uvahem neged yomam v'layla ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch Ata Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Amen. As we transition into the Shema, I just want to highlight that on Yom Kippur, we take the practice of our ancestors from the temple courtyard and we recite the second line after the Shema, the Baruch Shem, aloud this evening. That's why it's all in bold. So Dave will lead us in the Shema in the middle of page 208.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam Vahed, Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha, V'chol nafshecha, וכל נפשך וכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בביתך ולכתך בדרך, ובמשרתך ובקומך, וקשרתם לחות עבדיך, והיו לצוטפות בין עיניך.
We'll continue on our own on page 209, and we will come back together shortly.
Adonai Elohim Emed, Kol Zot Kayam Aleinu, Ki Hu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'en Zulato, Anachnu Yisrael Amo. We'll continue on the bottom of page 209, reading responsively. God redeems us from earthly rulers. Our sovereign delivers us from the hands of all tyrants.
And brings judgment upon our oppressors, retribution on all our mortal enemies.
God performs wonders beyond understanding, marvels beyond all reckoning.
God among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, God leads us past the false altars of our enemies.
God exalted us above all those who hate us, avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt.
Smote in anger all of Egypt's firstborn, brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom, led them through the divided water of the Sea of Reeds.
As their pursuing enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine.
They praised and acknowledged God's name, willingly accepting God's rule.
Then Moses, Miriam, and the people of Israel joyfully sang this song to you.
Who is like you, Adonai, among the mighty? Who is like you, adorned in holiness, revered in praise, working wonders?
Your children recognized your sovereignty as you split the sea before Moses. This is my God, they responded, and they said,
Adonai will reign forever and ever.
And so it is written, Adonai has rescued Jacob and redeemed him from the hand of those more powerful than he. Baruch atah Adonai, who redeemed the people Israel.
Amen.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זה אלי, ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, כל ישראל.
Amen. Please join me in English on the left side of page 211. Reading responsively. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to waken again to life, our sovereign. Shield us. Remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Ensure our going and our coming for life and for peace now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us and over all the people Israel and over all Jerusalem.
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Please join me on page 212 and rise if you are able. We'll say together on the left side in English, there's a little red line that says for Yom Kippur. So we will read that, and then Dave will repeat it in Hebrew, and then we'll go into we'll be seated after that. So again, in the middle where it says for Yom Kippur. For on this day, atonement shall be made for you to purify you from all your transgressions. In the presence of Adonai, you shall be pure.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליהם לטהר אתכם mikol chatotechem, lifnei Adonai titharu.
You may be seated. So in a moment, we'll have Dave will chant the Chatzi Kaddish, and then we'll move into the Amidah, the kind of central prayer in all Jewish prayer, not just on Yom Kippur. And before we begin that, I just want to share a brief kavanah, a brief intention that I hope will be helpful as we enter into the Amidah. And as I said earlier, please use the time in prayer always, and specifically I'm thinking about the Amidah as wherever it is that you need to be, just offering gentleness for whatever and wherever that is, and that it should be meaningful for you. And I'm going to share some words from one of my favorite poets, David White. He says, "Enough. These few words are enough. If not these words, this breath. If not this breath, this sitting here. This opening to the life we have refused again and again until now. Until now." Please rise as you are able for the Chatzi Kaddish on page 212.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash merabah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach irutei ve'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayed kol beit Yisrael ba'gala Uvizman kariv v'yimeru amen. Yehesh merabah mivarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shmei dekudeshah le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata Damiran ba'alma ve'imeru. Amen.
If you're still on your own journey in the Amidah, please continue. I have full faith that we will meet up soon. Now that folks have had some time, we're going to move into the slichot and the vidui, the forgiveness and confession section of our davening. So we will turn to page 223. And Cantor Lois is going to sing this piyut, this poem that asks for our supplications to rise up in the evening and arrive with the dawn. And if it's easier to follow along with the transliteration, it can be found in red on the left side of the page. And thank you so much, Dave, for leading us in Mariv. Always a pleasure to have you here and davening with and for us. So again, we're on page 223.
Ya'aleh, Ya'aleh, Tachanuneinu, Tachanuneinu me'erev, V'yavo Shabbateinu mi boker
Please read with me responsively in English. May our supplications rise up at evening, our pleas arrive with the dawn, our songs transform the dusk. May our suffering rise up at evening, our forgiveness arrive with the dawn, our purity transform the dusk.
Ya'aleh, Ya'aleh, Inu Yeinu me'erev, V'yavo, V'yavo, Slichoteinu, miboker, V'yireh, Na'akoteinu, Ararev. I'm skipping down another verse. Ya'aleh, Ya'aleh, Yishenu me'erev, V'yavo, V'yavo, Toreinu miboker, V'yireh, Chinuneinu, V'yireh, Chinuneinu, Ad Arev. Ya'aleh, Ya'aleh, Dovkeinu me'erev, V'yavo, V'yavo, Gileinu miboker, V'yireh, 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 Bakoshoteinu, Ararev. Ya'aleh, Ya'aleh, Enkateinu me'erev, V'yavo, V'yavo elecha, Elecha, mi boker. Yira'eh V'yira'eh Eleinu Hararev.
Beautiful. We will continue on page 225. Please read responsibly with me. The soul is yours, the body is your creation. Have compassion on your handiwork. We come before you relying on who you are. You are known as gracious, compassionate God. Your way is to be patient with sinners, not only with the righteous. That is the source of our praise for you. Grant relief to this driven leaf. Have compassion on that which is but dust and ashes. We will continue with the recitation of the 13 attributes of God. There are 3 of these cycles that we'll do together. Some of it will sound familiar, perhaps, and so there'll be a mix of English and Hebrew. So we continue on page 226. God, you are patient. You are known as the source of mercy. You taught us the way of repentance. Today and every day, call to mind the wonder of your compassion and mercy toward the children of those you loved. Turn toward us in mercy, for you are the source of mercy. We approach your presence with supplication and prayer, and with the words you revealed to Moses, the humble one, long ago. Turn away from the wrath and let us nestle under your wings, as it is written in the Torah. About the day God descended in a cloud, overlook sin, blot out guilt, as on the day God stood beside him. Hear our cry. Attend to our plea, as on the day he called the name Adonai.
Vayavor Adonai al panav vayikra. Adonai, Adonai, el racham v'chanun, erech apayim, racham ve'emet, noser chesed la'olofim, noser avon v'afesha v'chata v'nakeh, v'solakto lavonenu v'chatatenu v'chaltanu, selak lanu avinu ki chatanu, mechalanu makenu ki fashanu, ki Adonai Tovah zalak v'rachesed v'chalecho charecha.
You may be seated. Thank you for knowing in your bodies without me saying it that was the moment to rise. It's in us. It's beautiful to see. Thank you. We continue on page 227.
I'm going to introduce a somewhat new melody to this group. So I will sing the first 2 verses, but really try to join me in the refrain, La Brit Habeit, V'al Tefen La Yetzer. I'll sing the first 2 verses, then Rabbi Rachel will read, and I'll do the last verse. So. Ki hine kach omer b'yad hayotzer, Virtzoto marchiv uvirtzoto mikatzer, Ken anachnu beyadcha chesed notzer, La brit habeit v'yal tefen la yetzer. Ki hine ka'even b'yad hamsatet, Virtzoto chevu virtzoto mechatet, Ken anachnu b'yadcha mechaye umamotet, La brit habeit v'yal tefen la yetzer.
As iron in the hand of the blacksmith who forges or withdraws it at will, so are we in your hand, support of the poor.
Labrit habet vial tefen la yetzer.
As the helm in the hand of the sailor who holds the course or abandons it at will, so are we in your hand, good and forgiving God.
Labrit habet vial tefen la yetzer.
A glass in the hand of the glazer who shapes or melts it at will, so are we in your hand, pardoner of sin and transgression.
Labrit habet vial tefen la yetzer.
As cloth in the hand of the draper who drapes or twists it at will, so are we in your hand, righteous God.
Labrit habet vial tefen la yetzer. Ki hine ka kesef biyad hayatzorev. Virzoto mesazegu virzoto mitzarev. Ken anachnu biyadecha mamsila mazor teref. Labrit habet vial tefen la yetzer.
We continue on page 229. God, sovereign who sits on a throne of mercy, acting with unbounded grace, forgiving the sins of your people one by one as each comes before you, generously forgiving sinners and pardoning transgressors, acting charitably with every living thing, do not repay them for their misdeeds. God, you taught us how to recite the 13 attributes of your name. Remember the promise implied in these 13 attributes, which you first revealed to Moshe, the humble one. As it is written, God descended in a cloud and stood beside him, and he called the name Adonai. Please rise as you are able.
לומר שלוש עשרה, זכר לנו היום ברית שלוש עשרה, כמו שהודעת לנו מקדם, כמו שכתוב, וירד אדוני בענן ויתייצב עמו שם, ויקרא בשם אדוני ויבוא אדוני פניו ויקרא. אדוני, אדוני, ארחם וחנון, ארך אפיים, ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה, וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו, סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קראך.
You may be seated. We continue on the top of page 233. Grant atonement and purify us this day, as it is written in the Torah, for on this day atonement shall be made for you to purify you from all your transgressions. In the presence of Adonai you shall be pure. Bring us to your holy mountain and make us joyful in your house of prayer, as Isaiah prophesied. For my house shall be called a house of prayer for all people.
ויעבור אדוני על פניו ויקרא, אדוני, אדוני, ארחם וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה, וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו, סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קראך.
You may be seated after we close the ark. Thank you. At the culmination of the Slichot part of the service, we will go back to page 233, and Lois is going to chant for us the verses that are there, and we get to repeat them after her. Please join me in the repetition after, and so we will rise again, and then I'll open the ark.
Shema koleinu Adonai Eloheinu, usvarachem aleinu, v'kabel v'rachamim uv'ratzon et tefilatenu.
Shema koleinu Adonai Eloheinu, usvarachem aleinu, v'kabel v'rachamim uv'ratzon et tefilatenu.
Ashifenu Adonai lecha v'nashuva, chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Ashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yameinu kekadem.
Al tashlichenu milfanecha, v'ruach kodsheka al tikach mimenu.
Al tashlichenu milfanecha, v'ruach kodsheka al tikach mimenu.
Al tashlichenu li'etzikna, kichlot kochenu al tazvenu.
Al tashlichenu li'etzikna, kechalot kochenu al tazavenu.
Al tazvenu Adonai al tikach mimenu asim anu latova v'yirah v'sani v'yivav shekiyat Adonai v'asati. Amarenu hazina Adonai bina chagigenu Adonai yihiyu l'ratzonu mifinu v'hegion libenu lefanecha ratzonu v'gavalenu ki lecha Adonai hochalnu ata taneh Adonai Eloheinu.
We continue on page 234. Our God and God of our ancestors, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. For we are your people and you are our God.
Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, selach lanu v'chalanu, kaver lanu, ki anu amecha v'ata Eloheinu, anu v'necha v'ata avinu, anu avadecha v'ata Adonenu, anu kolecha v'ata chelkenu, anu nachlatecha v'ata goralenu, anu tzonecha v'ata roenu, anu charmecha v'ata noreinu, anu fulatecha v'ata yotzreinu, anu rayatecha v'ata dodeinu, anu segulatecha v'ata keroveinu, anu amecha v'ata malkeinu, anu mamirecha v'ata mamireinu.
We are insolent. You are gracious and compassionate. We are obstinate. You are patient. We are sinful. You are merciful. Our days are a passing shadow, but you are the only one who truly is for time without end. Our God and God of our ancestors, hear our prayer. Do not ignore our plea. Our God and God of our ancestors, we are neither so insolent nor so obstinate as to claim in your presence that we are righteous without sin. for we, like our ancestors who came before us, have sinned.
Anu azefanim v'atarachum v'chanun Anu kashay oref v'ata erech apayim Anu melei avon v'ata malei rachamim Anu yamenu ketzel aver v'atahu shenotecha lo yitamu.
So before we begin the vidui, the confession part of our davening tonight, I want to offer two things. One is an invitation to a practice, and another is a kavanah, an intention. So the invitation to practice is, some of you are probably familiar with this hand motion that goes along with this time of year. So one of my teachers, Rabbi Daniel Klein, once shared that there's the beating, all of the kind of self-flagellation that one can do with this motion. And then there's a different way of doing it, which is more of a knocking. It's a totally different kind of gesture in my mind, in that it's asking for an opening, the knock. There's for sure time and place for the intensity of the banging, and I feel like it's different to have more of a knocking intention or motion. So depending on where you're at with all of the things, I invite you just to think about it and see, maybe there are certain parts of this that feel more like a time for knocking and others more of a time for banging. So that's an invitation to a practice. And before we begin, I just want to share a few words from Rabbi Alan Liu, Zichrono Livracha, may he be remembered for a blessing, who wrote a really beautiful and helpful book about this time of year. And this is what he says about Kol Nidre. Kol Nidre comes, and it is finally time to speak of those thoughts and feelings that haunt us. Somewhere in the 24 hours of Yom Kippur, we must speak the shadow. We must speak it in private, and we must speak it in public. We must speak it to a friend, or we must speak it to a stranger. We must speak it in the shadow language of our own heart. Or we speak it through the liturgy. Kol Nidre is calling. It says, speak. Speak the shadow as much as you know. Speak and let go. Speak and be human. Speak and be healed. May our speaking these words really allow us to open up to the healing that we need for all that has been over this past year. Please turn to page 235 and rise as you are able for the vidui.
Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dafi, Hevinu, Vehirshanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tefalnu, Sheke, Lotsnu, Maradnu, Niatsnu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu, Oref, Roshanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Titanu.
You may be seated.
Yeah.
We will continue on page 236 at the bottom. Please feel free to read along with me if you would like. It's the last paragraph under the letter Hey. You know the mysteries of the universe, the deepest secrets of everyone alive. You probe our innermost depths. You examine our thoughts and feelings. Nothing escapes you. Nothing is secret from you. Therefore, may it be your will, our God and God of our ancestors, to forgive us for all our sins, to pardon us for all of our iniquities, and to grant us atonement for all of our transgressions. Please rise if you are able on 237 for the All Faiths.
החטא שחטאנו לפניך באונס וברצון, והחטא שחטאנו לפניך באימוץ הלב, החטא שחטאנו לפניך החטא שחטאנו החטא שחטאנו לפניך החטא שקטנו לפניך ביצר הרע, והחטא שקטנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים, כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו כפרנו, וכולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו, סלח לנו וחלנו כפרנו. החטא שקטנו לפניך בחטאת וחטא, והחטא שקטנו לפניך בחפת שוחד. החטא שקטנו לפניך בעיניים רמות, החטא שקטנו לפניך בעזות מצח, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו כפרנו, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו, סלח לנו וחלנו כפרנו. החטא שקטנו לפניך בפריקת עול, החטא שקטנו לפניך בפלילות, החטא שקטנו לפניך בצדקה, החטא שקטנו לפניך, החטא שקטנו לפניך בכל ראש, החטא שקטנו לפניך, החטא שקטנו לפניך, החטא שקטנו לפניך בסיני, החטא שקטנו לפניך בתשומת יד, והחטא שקטנו לפניך בתימהון לבב, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו כפרנו, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו, סלח לנו וחלנו כפרנו.
You may be seated. On the bottom of page 242, please join me in reading responsively. God of mercy, who answers the poor, answer us. God of mercy, who answers the broken-hearted, answer us. God of mercy, pity us. God of mercy, save us. Amen. We will continue with the Avinu Malkeinu on page 243. If you're able to rise, we will open the ark.
Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha, Avinu Malkeinu elanu melech elato, Avinu Malkeinu aseimanu lemachsheva, Avinu Malkeinu chadesh aleinu Shanah Tovah, Avinu Malkeinu betel, Avinu Malkeinu betel, Avinu Malkeinu kalei kol tzar, Avinu Malkeinu kalei dever, Avinu Malkeinu salaku machal chalavonotenu, Avinu Malkeinu b'chei b'chalav v'shein. In the middle of the page, Avinu Malkeinu chachazirenu b'tshuva shalema lefanecha. Repeat after me.
Avinu Malkeinu chachazirenu b'tshuva shalema lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu shalach refuah shalema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu shalach refuah shalema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu zochrenu v'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu zochrenu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu katvenu b'sefer chaim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer chaim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu katvenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu katvenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu katvenu b'sefer zechuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer zechuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu katvenu b'sefer slicha umchila.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer slicha umechila.
Avinu Malkeinu hatzmak lanu yishov v'karov. Avinu Malkeinu cherem keren yisrael amecha. Avinu Malkeinu harem keren yisrael. Avinu Malkeinu shema kolenu husorachem aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu kabel rachem yiftzeh tevilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu rana. Avinu Malkeinu zachor. Avinu Malkeinu asay laman. Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu asay laman chayim lo lamavinenu. Avinu Malkeinu chanenu vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu chanenu vanenu ki ein vanu masim. Asay imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Asay imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'oshienu. Let's do it again. Avinu Malkeinu chanenu vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu chanenu vanenu ki ein vanu masim. Asay imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Asay imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'oshienu.
Please remain standing for just another moment or two.
You could put it in front of the mic.
Do you want, Dave, you can come here if you.
You can do it down here. What? Okay, hold it. Down here. Announce that you're going to invite me to join you.
I'm going to invite Cantor Lois to join me in Kaddish.
We're on page 245.
Oh, boy. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba amen v'yal ma divarach yirutei v'yam lit malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uvecha yedecho beit Yisrael v'alav v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Amei Olamaya Yitbarach V'yitavach V'yitpar V'yitramar V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh Shemei Kudesh Abrichu Brichu Le'ela min kol birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damirat V'yamavim Amen Tikabel Tzalot Dahon Tikal Beit Yisrael Kadam Avuhoni Vishmaya V'yimagru Amen Amen Yehei Shlamara Rabba Min Shamayim Chayim Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imel Amen Oseh Shalom b'mrama Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imel Amen Amen v'imru Amen Amen v'imru Amen Amen Amen.
Yes, you're glad.
I would like to give the composer of this arrangement his due praise, which he just composed it this week for us.
Just this week.
And I would like to thank Cantor
Lois.
Sister Lois.
Sister. I like that, sister. Okay.
Eshet Chayil that agreed to do this even though she had a whole lot of other stuff to do. And,
But it was great.
So thanks.
We'll be
You
back
may
from Musa.
all
so
be
come.
seated. Thank you so much, both of you. Beautiful to hear your voices together. So now comes the time when I get to share some words and some words of Torah with all of you. Again, Shanah Tovah and Gamar Chatima Tovah. My name is Rabbi Rachel. I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you, but not all of you. I would love to meet all of you. I don't know if that's possible this evening, but as always, I love getting to meet folks at the end, so please don't hesitate to come up and introduce yourself. So here are some thoughts. Growing up, the mother of one of my dearest friends, who was really de facto a second mother to me, used to always say, change is the only constant. And as a child, I had pretty much no idea what she was talking about. She was and is very wise, but it just didn't really make sense as a kiddo. What could she be talking about? And only really now, about 3 decades later, can I begin to wrap my mind around this really deep and important wisdom. So some of you in the room know that I'm a breast cancer survivor. In June of 2020, just as the pandemic was starting, I started down a path that I really never imagined. Chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. To say it was quite something is obviously an understatement, and I'm sure there are others in the room who have experienced this in various ways in their life, and I'm just going to share a little bit about that. So when I was in the depths of this experience, I was so focused on all that was changing with my body, with my sense of myself as young and healthy, and with my thoughts about what the future could be, that I was really scared and worried and stressed. Not surprising, I'm sure. And really the time from detection to diagnosis to treatment was very short. It was about 2 months. The start of treatment, I should say. And understandably, this change was monumental, really dramatic and drastic. And I felt like my whole world revolved around disease. And the more I started to think about this word, I like sometimes playing with words, I was thinking about it as dis-ease. You know, the way we can think about not just in the health realm, but in a realm in our minds. And I feel like that play on words, the dis-ease, really perfectly describes how I felt during this very turbulent time. So fast forward, a big leap to today when, thank God, I feel healthy and cancer is very much in the rear view for me. What remains really present for me is a very challenging relationship with change. Now that I feel back to normal in a way, there are some days where I can even forget about what happened. This huge part of my life that was so present and all-encompassing, I can exist as if it was not. And it's, all of these trials and tribulations, I can think as if there is, some kind of cosmic punch card where once it's full, that's kind of the end, and one doesn't have more of these trials and difficulties. And I know intellectually that that's not true, and yet I can lull myself into wanting that. In my work life, when I'm not leading services, I'm a hospice chaplain for Hebrew Senior Life. And if I didn't need more reminders, that work has really fully grounded me in the very stark reality that, each day with the different patients and family members that I'm working with, change in its myriad forms is actually the only thing that I can count on. It's not a one-time occurrence. And as my dear friend's mother, Donna, taught me so many years ago, it's really not just a constant, but one of the only things I can count on. And yet here I still have this difficult relationship with it. And so, I've been thinking a lot about what kind of change do I need to set in motion such that dis-ease is not weighing on me in the way that it does of how to live in both of those realities. So in writing this drash and writing these words of Torah, I asked a lot of people for some advice. What do they think? What's the answer? How do we navigate our relationship with change? How do we encounter change in a way that will bring more ease, or that we can encounter it with more ease? And so far, these are the 4 things that I've come up with. So first, in thinking about Donna's phrase to me about change being the only constant, I've wondered what it might be like to create some sort of mantra of sorts, of like really repeating it to myself and having it be something that on a daily basis is with me and in me, and not something I have to pull out at a time of difficulty. So that's one idea that I'm working with. And to really, just take in that idea that change is the only constant. The second thing that I want to share with all of you is some more words of poetry from, again, my favorite poet, David White, from his work, Clear Mind, Wild Heart. He says that the abiding phenomena of courage is the ability to cultivate a relationship with the unknown, to create a form of friendship with what lies around the corner, over the horizon, with those things that have not yet fully come into being. So similar to what Donna taught me, David White is reminding me that part of my, and dare I say our,
work in the world is to befriend the unknown. As David White says, cultivate a relationship with the unknown. And as someone who used to be a farmer, cultivation is a really big project. It's a big practice. It's a process. It's not something that it just is done one day and then it's over. It's ongoing. It's perpetual. It's a constant. And so I'm thinking about what, again, this constancy of change in my life and our lives might give us, might gift us. And thinking about this season, this holiday season, I'm thinking about the way that on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur that we really have this accentuated opportunity to work on our relationships with change, whether it's the change we are going to do internally for ourselves or externally with others. And on both holidays, we read the Unatana Tokef prayer. And if familiar to some folks, it delineates who might live and who might die and gives all these different possibilities of what may be. And what it says, what the liturgy posits is, although we don't know if we're going to live or die, that tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah, repentance, prayer, and acts of charity, these things have the power to transform the harshness of our destiny. For lots of reasons, and that is not part of this drash, I don't feel quite comfortable with that anymore. I don't feel like I can fully lean into a cause and effect relationship with the divine. And so I'm going to offer an alternate understanding of this prayer, and I hope that it lands for you. So I'm feeling deeply that this prayer in offering tefillah, tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah, that these are actually three different remedies, three different antidotes, three different kinds of a balm from the things that are the scariest and the most unknown. I think this tefillah comes on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to remind us that we cannot control change, but we can control the way we respond to change. We can't change. We can learn to respond differently to change. So, tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah are these three different ways. Judaism gives us these practices to help integrate change into our lives, to normalize change, to literally help us practice what it means to change slowly in an everyday way, so that, I hope, when big change comes, our change muscles, if you will be stronger. We'll have a different kind of inner reserve to draw on in these times of change. And I was thinking about how a tshuva, it's just ideally this constant process of becoming our best selves. We can transform who we are internally in some ways to meet the realities that we're presented with. And again, change, it's going to happen, and how can we alter who we are to meet that change? And then I think about tefillah. We're all here tonight doing a prayer service. We're in tefillot together. And in Judaism, we have this practice, the opportunity where we say the same prayers all the time. There's a roteness to our practice that I'm sure is like crazy making for some of us at certain times. And I want to offer it as a vessel in this moment that when the prayers are the same, what changes is who we are in that moment and how we show up. Maybe it's where we are in the world. Maybe it's what's going on in our lives. Maybe it's the person sitting next to us. There are changes, and we can use this vessel of tefillah as a gauge of sorts, a reminder of what actually has changed in us, even though we're here saying these same words that we say year after year. And for some people, day after day. I was thinking about the Mourner's Kaddish as an example, and, reciting these words after the death of a loved one over the course of 11 months, and then at the Yortzeit, and then for Yizkor, there's so many different demarcations of when change in that process of grief occurs, but the prayer itself is the same. So again, this idea that tefillah can be this vessel for us to hold the evolving nature of who we are, such that we can reflect in that time of prayer and see who we are in that moment. And lastly, for tzedakah, I was thinking about it as a call to really create the change that we want to see in the world, to change what's broken, to propagate justice, and whether that's individually, communally, for those who are suffering, to use our voices and our resources to advocate for them. And that this act of tzedakah, that it calls each of us to really notice the change that needs to happen and to give of ourselves, again, financially, energetically, emotionally, in order to see fit that we create the change that we need. So the last thought that I want to share is some words from Octavia Butler from her book, The Parable of the Sower, which was given to me by a dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Yamim Nora'im. And Octavia Butler writes that God is change. When I read this, I felt like, okay, my mind is blown. And at the same time, it feels like very simple when we think about the story of Bereshit, the beginning of the creation of the world. There's so much change, but thinking of God as change, that it's encompassed in, that change is encompassed in all that ever was, all that is, all that will be, and it's just this constant evolution. So it's my really, really deep hope in this holiday season that we begin to create practices that enable us to really hold change with ease. Perhaps it will help to repeatedly remind ourselves that change is the only constant. Or maybe some of us feel ready to form a friendship with the unknown that's around the corner. Some might feel drawn to tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah in new or different ways. And for right now, for me, I'm finding this deep sense of ease and comfort from this idea that God is change. Not because this perspective puts a silver lining on all of life's difficulties. I really do not want to offer that. That doesn't feel right for so many reasons. But it just reminds me that just as I feel called to cultivate my relationship with God, with all of the complexities of what it means to be someone who's engaged in Avodat Hashem, who's engaged in the work of life and living and service, that so too can be our relationship with change, that it can hold the heartbreaking and the beautiful, the messy and the meaningful, the challenging and the rewarding. And it's my deepest blessing, my bracha for all of us this year, that we find ways to acknowledge that change is the only constant, and that we get to live deeper into the truth that God is change. So, Shanah Tovah and Gamar Chatima Tovah. May it be a sealing for SEALING, a closing for each of us at this time of year that seals in what we most need, and that we can feel held in that closing. So we will continue, finish even with the Aleinu on page 246. Please rise if you are able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We're going to continue with the Mourner's Kaddish. If it's your custom to stand, or you are in mourning or commemorating a yortzeit and standing for that reason, please do. And the Mourner's Kaddish is on page 247.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rava.
Amen.
V'alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute. V'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye l'chol be'Yisrael ba'agala uv'zman kariv v'yimaru. Amen. Yehei shemei rava mevarach le'olam u'l'yomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'it hadar, v'it aleh, v'it halal, shemei d'kudsha brichu, le'ela u'le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'alma v'yimaru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimaru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimaru, amen.
Amen. Be seated. During this season, we recite Psalm 27 each morning and evening, and we'll have a few minutes to explore the psalm on our own, and then Lois will bring us together in song for the verses that I don't know why they're not bolded, but they're not. They usually are in other parts of the prayer book. It's
7 lines down.
Thank you. 7 lines down. I wrote it, but then I couldn't find it.
Alti.
Yeah. So enjoy the psalm on your own, and then we'll sing together.
Lele amadi little bit to Adonai Betzchaim, Kavel Adonai Fasak Yav Expect, Kavel Adonai. Ultimate Adonai, Ota Avakesh. Ultimate Adonai, Ota Avakesh. Shivti Bevet Adonai, Kol Yemei Chayai, Lachazor Ben Noam Adonai, Uvaker Vechalo, Lachazot Ben Noam Adonai, Uvaker Vechalo.
I would love to invite up Susan Brand to give some announcements.
Shanah Tovah. We will meet again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for Psuke de Zimra. And as Rabbi Rachel said, Yisker will be in the morning after the Torah service. Our drash will be during Mincha, and Mincha will begin at 4 o'clock here. And we intend to finish around 7 o'clock. I want to thank Lois and David, our cantors today, and Rabbi Rachel for leading us. And I know Jim Leffert would like to say a few words about our minyan for those of you who may not be all that familiar with us.
You know, some years ago, my wife and I had the opportunity to travel in Newfoundland. And we had the opportunity while we were there to see icebergs. And we were traveling around the north of this huge island, and we were driving from hither to thither looking for these icebergs. And it was quite a trek looking for them. But we met a man who had no trouble at all because he had an app. And it guided him to exactly where the reports of iceberg sightings were. But anyway, we were driving around, and we finally got to this place that he mentioned, and we stood above a certain spot, an inlet in the water, and lo and behold, there in front of us was an iceberg. And I just want to share with you the wonderment and excitement that we felt at that moment. And I share it with you because I wonder if perhaps you might be experiencing a similar wonderment and excitement about this service today and being part of this community. And I know I am. And similar to icebergs, it's well known or oft said that icebergs, most of the iceberg that you see is only a little bit of what's underneath, right? Maybe 90% is out of sight. And if you haven't been to our minyan and you don't know about all the other things that our minyan does, it's a little bit like that iceberg. So we would like to invite you, if you haven't already, to learn a little bit about what our minyan is all about and to come and participate. First of all, we have our services on Shabbat, and they are a lovely service, a lot of communal activity. We're a welcoming and vital community, and our service reflects that. And we talk about the Torah portion. We sing through the prayers. We have what is still known to be a very high-level Kiddush. And it would be nice to see more people joining us. We love that. So that's one thing. We're there at Hillel. 1 week a month, the services are in Brookline, but the rest of the time they're at Hillel. And once a month, we even have the joy of having Rabbi Rachel with us, too. So that's another thing that's really nice. So those are our Shabbat services, really something going on there. Now, in addition to that, we have other activities that we do on Zoom. So one of them is called Shmooze and Learn. Every month on our Zoom, we have someone who comes and talks with the community on some topic. And this gentleman right here, Bernie Avishai, is our next schmoozer. He's coming, well, first of all, we have the opportunity to talk with him tomorrow afternoon as part of our Yom Kippur service. But on November 6th, he's coming back on Zoom with our minyan to talk about the Israeli elections, which will have just occurred. Bernie spends a good part of his year in Israel, and among his other activities, writes about Israel for the New Yorker. He's going to talk with us on November 6th at 7:30. It's a Sunday evening. Also, every 5 to 6 weeks, we have our book group meets, and we have a very wonderful discussion about a book that we've chosen. And often, we even are able to get the authors of these books to come and join us on Zoom and talk with us about the books. So we've had some wonderful discussions about some very remarkable books. The next one of those is going to take place a week later on Sunday, November 13th in the evening at 7:30. The name of this particular book is We Share the Same Sky. And I just invite you, if you remember that title, We Share the Same Sky, when you get home to check it out. Check it out online. We are going to be talking about that book on November 13th. It's written by an author named Rachel Siroti. I want to spare you the opportunity to hear more about the book now, but go back home and We Share the Same Sky by Rachel Siroti. We do some other things too. We have wonderful celebrations of holidays such as Hanukkah and Purim. David Rosenthal and I have been responsible for 11 years of nefarious Purim celebrations for Armenian that are really memorable. A couple of them are on YouTube. So there's a lot going on. So just like the iceberg, there's a lot to see. As those of you who are active members of Armenian here will attest, there's a lot going on, and we're a very welcoming and vital community. Now, if you would like to know more, if you'd like to know what's going on when and have that information, I have 2 ways for you to do that. Right now, unfortunately, our website is under reconstruction, so that's not one of them. But I have 2 ways you can do that. First of all, you can email Rabbi Jim Morgan. Just email rabbijim@worshipandstudy.org, rabbijim@worshipandstudy.org, and ask him to put you on our email list, which means that once a week you would get a bulletin that describes everything that's going on. The second way is if you come to me, I will give you my contact information, and you can follow up by contacting me after the holiday. So those are 2 ways that you can find out more about the Minyan. The first one, remember, rabbijim@worshipandstudy.org, and just ask him to put you on our email list, or check with me and I'll give you my contact info. So, Gomar Chatima Tovah, it's wonderful to have the chance to talk with you all.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'm just tickled because I really had no idea where you were going with the iceberg story. And it makes so much sense. And I'll just add one more. Now it makes so much sense. I'll add one more line to that you didn't say, which is just in terms of supporting the Minyan. I think that iceberg metaphor could really be extended to, like, there's a lot of times, the people who are supporting it, those are the ones that that's like the very top. And then there's like so many people underneath the water that also need the support, but we might not see them. So there's something there. It's a little half-baked in this moment, but it made sense more in my head before I started talking. What can you do? Okay, so thank you, Jim, for sharing that. I appreciate it. I really love this Minyan, and would love to see more of all of you. So with that, we are going to close with the Don Olam on page 249. I'm actually going to lead. Lois gets to rest for a minute. And this tune that I'm going to share with you is one that I learned many moons ago, and I associate it with this time of year, and hopefully you'll be able to join in. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'ed Nasa V'chafso Kol Azonai Melech Shemo Nikra Lebe'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hove Vehu Yiyah B'tifara Vehu Echad V'yein Sheni Lehamshilo Lehachbira Beli Reshit Beli Tachlit Velo Ha'oz V'ha'misra Vehu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzur Cheli B'yetzara Vehu Nisi Umanosli Menat Kosi B'yom Ekra B'yado Av ki ruchi bi'eti shan ve'ayira ve'im ruchi keviati Adonai li velo ira. Shanah Tovah umetuka gamar chatima tova. Thank you all so much for being here and just wishing you a really meaningful Yom Kippur.
Thank you very much for being a part of tonight. Cohen, but it's also Rain, depending on my dad wanted to put it.